There, anyone?
Oh, yeah, I think I have it.
Right?
Thank you all for coming in person, Zoomers, boomers and Gen Xers and all the other gens. So I'm actually really excited about this because this has been sort of like a long time in the making of trying to figure out how to understand amphibian movements in the park and as a source of mortality and what we can do to mitigate that. And so we've, so as part of some regional fund sources, we've been able to get help from these two amazing folks at University of Maine and try to understand a bit more about amphibian movements and how we can mitigate that and how we can improve what's happening in the park to better serve the critters. And so with that, so Marisa Monroe and Noah Charney, Noah's professor at University of Maine Orono, and Marisa is a graduate student, just come on. And we are lucky enough to have stolen Marisa from INM, so from the Park Service to university and working in the park. So yeah, I'll let the two of you introduce yourselves really beyond that,
Okay.
if you want.
I didn't want to say that.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say that both of us are here, Marisa and Dr. Noah Charney is my advisor and in the Wildlife Fisheries and Conservation Biology Department. And yeah, I just come from Southern Nevada. I was based out of Lake Mead National Recreation Area where Mojave Desert Inventory Monitoring Network is based out of. So I was working on mostly aquatic protocols around our parks. But also joining on some vegetation and bats for fun when time allowed. But I was excited to come here to Maine and work with Noah. Well, specifically applying to the project because I'm interested in not just long-term monitoring of our resources like I was doing, but how can we apply our science to management actions? So it's exactly what we hope to be doing with the data that we're collecting over the next couple of years, maybe beyond that, we'll see how this goes in the park. So my title here is Protecting Amphibian Pathways Using Citizen Science to Map and Predict Amphibian Bird Crossing Hotspots, but that is just a temporary title because it wasn't, I don't think it was funny enough for, well, Noah and I were sitting around brainstorming titles. I had to send a title to Emma and he stopped listening to me and decided to ask ChatGPT. Really wasn't, yeah. And so this one's pretty good, guiding Amphibian safe cross, blah. But it was too boring for us or for Noah, and so we thought, let's see. What is less boring, hop into the future. Managerial models for amphibian friendly road crossings in Acadia National Park. It really loves alliteration. Not enough, it's really hard to stop once you start. So more ideas, yes. There are so many more ideas. I think we particularly liked Guardians of the Leaf. Amphibian crossings in Acadia National Park. And
Front forward.
we want more and more, you like frog forward. There are so many more. And then I was like, come on, like, let's get serious. Like, I need them to take me seriously here. But I also want to know, can you make it fun here? And yes, hopping to safety, a riveting adventure and navigating an amphibian crossing to save lives in national parks. It's pretty good. But no one chuckled, so maybe even funnier. And there are so many examples, more than this. This was like a 25-minute activity for us. This is, I guess, what we do during our advising meetings. And so our new title is actually Opportunity Knocks, a whimsical expedition into mountain amphibian road crossings for a national park project. All right. So that's the Charney lab kind of wrapped up in 3 minutes there. But I would like to make you do a quick quiz. I think you can pair up or like triplet up. And I just wanna see how many of these amphibians you actually know that live in your park. So I have paper here and pens. You wanna team up? How comfortable are you? You can make, okay.
Is it good enough to say one is,
I have a
one is
cheat sheet. It's a little small, but I have the names there. All right, so just take,
Oh, good.
2 minutes. You wanna team up?
Oh, I wanna be a good team.
All right.
We have our winners. No fair.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's not fair.
It's not fair.
Do you need a pen?
And this is government standards of 70%, correct, right? As many tries as you.
What's the percentage for passing in that new employee, like, when you apply to jobs, there's a new,
Oh.
test that you have to take? Oh,
I know, that's high, I know.
Yeah.
I know, and then it stayed with you more.
I think you get to retake it,
Oh, do you?
yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so,
I got it.
you have
Yeah.
3 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that was the last.
That's the thing, just. Oh, just spotted.
You're gonna quickly find out we know nothing, that's why we need this work.
Exactly.
I'm just like. We should have, oh, frogs.
I'm so fine, I can't even see.
Writing on it.
No, it's not.
I think that's that, or is that the pickle frog? Big six is there, okay, I'll go with your, what did you say it was? American bull farmers or the, right?
Oh, no, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The nine, so.
Both could be, both could be true. We're doing parallels.
Go with your gut.
Sure.
Gut.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, you're doing well. You've got 30 seconds.
I can't. Close enough for me, isn't that awful not to know anything?
Yeah, these are. I'm still confused. All these
15
are salamanders,
seconds.
now salamanders and nukes. Is that how that is?
We're gonna find.
Like tortoise, tortoise slippers.
That's how I simplify my world. Squares, salamanders. Okay.
All right,
Keeper.
I'll give you
Number 7.
10 more seconds.
Which one's the picture?
Okay, and stop.
Okay, we got nothing.
Wildlife
right.
didn't even finish. The wildlife didn't even
Do
finish.
we get chalk?
They look like they finished.
INM killed they got rid of our amphibian monitoring, so.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's why we don't know it.
Well, I mean, I'm also new there, I haven't seen some of these, so these are the answers.
Okay. We got one.
And how did you do? Did you get any right?
Yeah, we got,
Spotted.
we got newts, we got spotted, we got.
We didn't even get green frog right.
We got the,
Oh, I mean, there a lot of them are green.
we got salamanders and newts.
We decided to call
What
it.
did you do?
We got 2 and 3.
Oh.
They only got two.
Gold frog,
I got
pickle frog.
I mean, you can't see the toes on that picture, so.
So we did all right.
Yeah, we say 50%.
50%.
50%?
50% and 50%.
Okay, so
We actually
25.
did.
But you can try again after you see the answers.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do it again at the end, let's see, if we have time.
Oh.
Great, so this is just, oh, and then there's the question mark ones, these, I haven't seen any, my naturalist records of these or anything, and I think there maybe was we're not sure, maybe a leopard frog population at some point, unknown. And then the northern dusky, there used to be northern duskies here, and then they declined.
Not here, they're here.
They're
We
here,
actually do know that.
they're still here,
They're still
in
here.
small numbers. Okay, great, they're here,
We'll dig that up
yes,
later and get that to you
okay,
for sure.
great, cool, was that recent?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. All right.
Because this was a big question mark and we're
Yeah.
like, oh my.
I mean, there were papers written
We got
about kind of
Yeah.
species here, right?
Yeah, I remember, I don't know if it was the inventory or some other paper that was like, we found 3 or something like that. Okay, cool, so yeah, some question marks,
Well,
and I guess there's no like unique frogs, leopard frog and dusky. Cool, and that is just to say, so there's so many amphibians in the park, that's not all the amphibians in Maine, we have 18 in Maine. So 12 of the 18, it's not bad, but they are using all these different habitats in Acadia National Park. We have vernal pools on the left, we have like big wetlands. Our streams and our brooks, like rocky line brooks, and then a whole bunch of forest. So we've got some that, you know, the ones we think about migrating to vernal pools in the spring, the wood frog and spring peeper and our spotted salamander. But of course, they're gonna only be there for a little while and then they're moving. And then the four-toed salamander also kind of uses the margins of pools and swamps, and then goes and lays its eggs under some sphagnum moss. And then we have the newts, and this is the juvenile of the eastern newt, it's the red F, which you might know, and they're wandering around maybe for a few years as juveniles, and so maybe he's heading back to the water to become an aquatic adult forever, or maybe he's still just kind of wandering around, but we recently saw a ton of newts on the road with Steve and Vic,
and mom.
and I'm like, yeah, were you there? Yeah. And then our green bullfrogs, they're like maybe more, not moving as much and staying in the wetlands, but green frogs are also like everywhere in vernal pools and then, and all over the forest, there's the red-backed salamander, there's everywhere, right? Maybe more biomass than any other vertebrate in forests or in the park. And then our little two-eyed salamanders living under rocks along stream margins, but also is moving through the terrestrial habitat, or might not even be near a stream at all. And all these, oh, no, the tree frogs, but the tree frogs also are gonna be near bodies of water. They might be on the ground. And all these species have been seen on roads. So they are moving and they need different habitats to have their life cycle to lay eggs, for larvae to grow, to breed, all that. So there's all these unknowns, all these species, all these life stages of our amphibians in the park. And in Acadia, we have a lot of roads. So this is the paved roads in orange, and I'm thinking, we're not.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was making the laugh, that's just the paper.
Just the paved roads, yeah, so not the carriage roads, and amphibians are especially vulnerable to road mortality. You know, they're slow moving, they don't respond to oncoming traffic, they might just freeze in the headlights in response to vibrations. And they might be attracted to the roads for foraging or for regulation. And in studies where they're studying vertebrate mortality, they can be often the highest amount of mortality, maybe like, 90% of all animals killed on the road. So what we want to do is definitely preserve populations, because researchers have modeled that even a little bit of road mortality, just like moderate traffic density, could cause the decrease of the population, or maybe a local extirpation. And there's a term also in the research called ghost of roadkill past, and so maybe there were these hotspots of amphibians that existed and they were extirpated, and so we don't even know anymore. And we also want to preserve migrations, because it is valuable in itself, it has an intrinsic value. They're part of our community, we're very inspired by migrations, whether it's big animals that we can see in the landscape, or it's little ones like the spotted salamander. There's just like something very special, magical in seeing so many animals moving, not affected by stimuli, they're not stopping, they have this destination, and we can be part of that, and I think that's also a value that the Park Service holds and wants to preserve and protect as well. And in Maine and New England, across the country, there are big night migrations, and here we have Maine Big Night, and people go out and monitor their road segments. And these take place in the spring, and they focus on adults that are breeding, and they're going to their breeding habitat. So, what about then the others, the other species, the other life stages? If we just focus on all those adults and we save all the adults, what happens if all the juveniles are smushed on the roads at a later date? You actually cause a local extirpation as well. So there's a little bit of research about that juvenile stage, not a ton, but Starrett et al. In 2019 made the observation that in their model, that when volunteers focused on the metamorphs, the little juveniles out migrating, rather, it had a bigger impact than just focusing on adults, like maybe with like a bucket per brigade, like helping them cross the road and things like that. And that's contrary to the timing of such volunteer events, like including here in Maine. So that's that part of the model, that metamorph out migrating from their needle habitats.
And when is that? What season is that, or what,
Yeah.
as opposed to Big Night?
Yeah, so the adults are gonna start in early spring, like March, April.
Yeah.
Right, and then swing back
Oh, I
around.
see.
Yeah. Maybe a couple weeks of the vernal habitat, and then in summer.
Yeah.
Maybe into fall, so.
Right when we have most of our people on the road.
Yeah, and then there'll be roads open as well. Exactly, but where are they? And these migrations, they can also be big, and but they can be dispersed, so there's a lot of unknowns with the juveniles. These are migrations from Germany. In Germany, they've been doing a lot of this sort of research for a long time. The first tunnels for amphibians were built in Germany. Yeah, the Netherlands over there. But this literature review found that the models from other research showed that juvenile migration is very important in maintaining the population. And I mean, there's like no way to not kill a whole bunch of toads there on the left. If traffic intensity is just sort of moderated. And good thing, like mitigations exist, and this is what we want to use this information for. How can we manage for this? We can, do assisted crossings, we can continue that, we can install tunnels, or we can close roads. But of course, we need to know when these things actually happen and where, of course. And also, juveniles might not use the tunnels the same way as the adults. They're moving differently. As no one I talked to today, let me hear, they like might just climb up things rather than go into a tunnel. They're like very, very small. So our research goals then are to improve our understanding of these spatial and temporal parameters for amphibian road crossings in the park, specifically so we can help guide management actions. And our first objective is to determine what are the spatial characteristics to predict those road crossings. So in relation to landscape features, wetlands, forests, maybe other things like slope or hydrology features or soils. And then our second objective is how are their movements related to temporal feature factors like precipitation, other weather events, temperature, day of year, and like days since the last rained. And we're going to be collecting 2 different sets of data to meet these 2 different objectives that we will work together. And what we want to deliver after some data collection is like a map, right? Where are the hotspots, where are those spatial areas we can protect? But also, how can we determine when things are gonna happen? And hopefully, like, we give you something that's gonna look like a little like friendlier than this. But this is just an example from some research. If you were to use these variables, Julian days, the day of year, degree days, how many days after, like May 1st, is it above a certain temperature? Because that's gonna affect, we assume that biology of our species need a certain amount of degrees of warmth to help their development as, larvae. And that's going to influence like when they actually migrate out of the pool. Temperature is kind of the same thing. They just need a certain threshold temperature. Precipitation, they want to migrate in the, wet conditions. They're prone to desiccation and drought. So how many days since its last rain? It's very small. I forget on the back with the bad guys, but like rain out here, or how much rain in the last 24 hours or 48 hours, things like that. So we'd like to be able to have this sort of like predictive model that we can look at and be like, we need to close this road today because all these variables are lining up. And we want to use citizen science, and both because there's so many roads in the park and we need more people to see little amphibians, but also it's kind of in the spirit as well of the like protecting this migration and being part of this community and taking care of our ecosystem. And it's just like a really great project for us to work with the community. Kind of feel more like, not as much as like it's an outreach idea for them, but that they're actually supplying us with data that we value, and we value them and want to invest in them in this project. So our existing data, kind of mentioned before that we have the INM amphibian reptile inventory, back in 2001, it was published in 2005. And I don't know if anyone knows if this exists, but so there's geospatial points. There's coordinates in this document of both incidental observations and their study sites. I don't know if that exists in a like computer, like as a geospatial layer anywhere, but I might be entering that by hand, which I haven't done yet. And then there's some research that's happened in the park. It's like Wildlife Preservation Society survey in the purple, a four-toed salamander survey in light blue, and I actually don't know what Ballinger and Chalmers were studying, but then most of those points are iNaturalist points between 2016 and 2023. So it kind of looks like a lot, but I don't think that's that many for 7 years or 8 years. But we're going to be using some of that to help us determine what sites we're going to study. So in the first year for that first objective, where are we finding the road crossings? That's going to be, we're choosing our sites in relation to like landscape, wetland density. And so for all our roads, this is a road in Acadia National Park, maybe recognize that right after that, but we'll break them into 200-meter sections. And then from those 200-meter segments, we're gonna determine a kernel density to wetlands from that like midpoint of the road section. And so every road section is gonna be ranked based on the density of wetlands. And then from this ranking, so they'll have like a lot of high, medium, and low. We'll choose a subset that are high, some that are medium, some are low. And that in a way is kind of affords us a little bit of randomness, I guess. We're expecting to see amphibians near wetlands, but we need to know, are they also, we're not expecting to see in segments where there's no wetlands, so we need to go to those sites, make sure they're there, or they're not there, and then be able to fit a model with all that existing data. And those sites we're gonna be giving to the citizen scientists, and they're gonna go out on nights when it rains. And so that's a big unknown is like, how many volunteers are we gonna get? How many sites do they want to do in one night? And we are starting that outreach right now. The second year, we're gonna change all those sites, and based on the first year's data, see does like this second year's model, can we predict where they're gonna be, and using the same what we found in that first year. And then a little road segment here, just example, I'm thinking breaking up 200 meters into 25 meters segments. Instead of taking a GPS point for every amphibian you see, just bend them into a subsection. We'll see what direction they're traveling, what species it is it adult or juvenile? And you know, take a temperature reading and a humidity reading, is it raining? And also count any mortality as well, and then move them off the road in the direction of travel. And so for our second objective, when are we finding amphibians crossing the roads? We're gonna sample a non-random location. So we just wanna know where the amphibians are and go there. And so we know we're gonna see them, but we wanna know like when. So now we can determine when are they going based on the weather. So we'll go to maybe, Duck Brook Road, where we know there's a lot of amphibians. And maybe determine our sites based on some existing information, or if anyone has some insider information of amphibian hotspots, you can let us know. There's a vernal pool there from Bar Harbor, that's the darker green. And it mostly lines up with this wetlands layer, but there's, a few other pools in there that are showing up. And some research data, and then the iNaturalist data. And then just from this though, you can see there's 9 species of amphibians in that location. This is a very small road segment. So I'm hopeful that we'll find some good hotspots, but yeah, we'll see. There's so many unknowns. It's very exciting. So in those are all the species in this picture. And the second year, we're gonna do in the exact same location. And so according to the weather, last year it rained on this day. We expect to see the same amphibians if it rains on like a slightly different day, something like that. And our timeline for this work, we are starting our outreach now, starting with you and some other emails we've sent. And we're reaching out to community organizations around the island and trying to maybe do some talks, rally volunteers, get a mailing list going, and then schedule some trainings. And I think late February, early March, and I'd like to do them all in person. I think it would be important and more motivating to have some more in-person trainings instead of all Zoom. And then field work. So I want to get this whole season of amphibians, but I don't want to scare anybody. So I'm breaking it into spring, summer, and fall, and that way someone doesn't have to commit to an entire season. They can just do spring, or if the demographics are changing here on the island during the year, like summer visitors or summer, people with summer houses can participate other times of the year. I think it hopefully will allow a lot of people to participate who want to. And that's gonna happen in both those 2 years. And I'm still here in 2026 and we'll be doing a lot of writing, or I don't know, maybe I'll come back out in the field, I don't know. And well, I just deleted everything in the slide, but beautiful Acadia. We're very excited to do this research in the park and see what movements are out there. There just hasn't been a lot of dedicated study to amphibians, so super excited. And this is for the future, but we're just talking about newts the other day, and they'll move during the day. So I think that for now that's too much to incorporate into like nighttime and daytime surveys, but just start thinking about it. How can we get a feeling on our newt population? As Noah's mentioning me, the threat of chytrid coming over from Europe is present, and so we wanna know maybe what they're like now before there's any decline. And, yeah, that's it, I think. I don't think I talked too long, right? But, yeah, great, so thanks to Noah and Vic so far for the support, and Steve's not here. And Harrison, who got lost in New Zealand, is my lab mate who is doing unisexual and blue spot salamander work. So he's also has a lot of vernal pool work, and hopefully he'll come out. And so if you see him, if you have questions about that, and contact. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of work.
Yeah.
Very ambitious.
Yep. Any questions?
What do we know about big nights now, Dick? I think it's a big question.
Well, I mean, no, I think that's, and we've talked a lot about
Let's
this.
just find out about it.
Where, you know, and the main Big Night project, which has been going on for several years, has been really great at identifying these places and times through the state. But something actually that Steve sort of started to notice a couple of decades ago is that in Acadia, and probably because of our coastal area, we don't really have a big night. We just have like this protracted set of big nights, or little nights, medium nights. And so that's part of where, in our conversation at the beginning of this, and where you're going is, unfortunately, instead of this being just like a, you know, let's all like go out March 17th and do big night, it's Marisa gets to do 10 months of field work because there's the whole, and then also with, you know, we do have a big sort of, I think part of the specialness and what people see is they see this spring migration of adults, and that's our big night. That's sort of like what we understand, but there's so much more that's really important. Population, and also the ecology here is a little bit different, that getting to understand what those weather factors are, and what those climate factors are, and location factors makes it so that instead of us being able to just say, okay, we're gonna close all the roads for one night, well, it's probably not gonna do much good here. So that's part of why this project is so big, is we don't really have an easy big night.
Is it because we're cold and wet in the spring?
Cold and wet, but warm and wet.
More wet?
Yeah.
You know, Jonathan, in the Uniform, I know that they make efforts sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's every spring, so I would
Yeah.
get in touch with them to go out and look. I'm wondering, how many hours of the night? Are you talking about from dark till dawn?
It's a question, yeah.
Sounds like.
No, we're not gonna tell you that, Charlie. No.
I think in the spring, you know, if it's still getting cold at night, I think there'll be a point where it's too cold. And
Yeah.
then I get to go home and to the apartment. But I'm wondering about the summer, because it'll be warm. That will, I mean, I'll have certain transects to go to, and then hopefully, you know, we're sitting around trying to determine what is reasonable. And I think we'll see what is reasonable, and then have to make adjustments, like in a lot of field work.
Are you wanting to target it to when people are likely to be driving? Cause I mean, like, there aren't very many people on the road, I think, between like midnight and 5 in the morning or something.
Yeah, we're not like measuring mortality.
Right, no,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I would like there to be less cars, because it's, you know, be safer, of course. Oh, hey, you're just in time for questions. So are you saying like we maybe wanna avoid their cars?
No,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, if you were cutting back on hours, like, what's reasonable?
No, I think it's saying start, what, an hour after sunset? It's the literature say, yeah.
It gets a little bit complicated too, because like you were saying, as it cools down in the middle of the night, so, or as it warms up in the middle of the night, so when they're actually moving, you know, it doesn't necessarily match up
Yeah,
in the night with
yeah,
like a temporal aspect of like, right after sunset, they start moving. Once it warms up, they start moving, or once it starts to rain at 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
So,
And so I didn't mention with the citizen scientists, we're just gonna put them out in the rain every time it rains, but for my transects, like, we also wanna know, I mean, are they moving when it's not, didn't rain all day? It's still moist or it's humid, the fog rolled in. So right now I'm kind of thinking like, I'll go out that 0 night that it rains and then the next day. And then maybe 3 days later, maybe like 5 days later, and then sort of repeat like a 7-day cycle until it rains again. So maybe in this summer, it won't rain every day in July and like, I'll just go out once a week. But I think that, yeah, I'll just be like a nocturnal person. We'll see how that goes. And if I have a mental breakdown, then, we'll think about something else. I don't know, maybe we'll get some funding and we can, hire some other folks or you can get some techs and hire. You
I
know,
think you should also do the daytime service. Like,
sounds reasonable. Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to just not need sleep or anything, you know? That would be great. It really help meet our objectives, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, as long, the more that we have housing too, here in the park, that definitely helps. And I'm taking one course this year, an easy, smaller course, so this will be my school for now, so at least I can dedicate a lot of time to it.
How do you plan on recruiting volunteers?
Yeah, so I'm reaching out to different organizations that have, a lot of them have like a mailing list or volunteer base, like main master naturalists. The Something now Reserve, we're going to the Gilly Museum now, like at 2 o'clock. To maybe just do outreach. The Jessup Library, so I've got a list running of people to contact and continue contacting, to hopefully reach out to whoever they know. And then, I mean, but also, I don't know if there's anyone here from Interb.
No, but I was gonna say that would be a good connection.
Yeah, to see if there's anything that Interb wants to get involved in and, I used to work in Interb, so I can.
We talk there, talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we should connect her with Diana, we have a volunteer coordinator. We have
Oh,
a
yeah.
very large group of volunteers. They don't always do what we want them to do, but this might be something that we could, we could make a connection and it would be an opportunity.
I think that's good, because everyone's looking for something to.
They're always looking for something else to do, and could we,
Keep
make
that
the case of how.
Rainy day activity.
Yeah, and, but so it's kind of, we also like wanna make sure they're trained because.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, I kind of want opportunities for one-off. I wanna participate tonight or
Yeah.
this week, but,
Yeah.
is there a way to still get good data? Or maybe just emphasize, like, if you don't know it, don't guess and take a picture or whatever. I think we could get into trouble maybe when people are like, I'm confident that's a whatever.
You don't want the volunteers.
Well, that's not us.
Yeah,
well, I am curious too, about as you're sort of like getting your protocols developed,
yeah,
what sort of your target audience as far as like skill commitment level,
Yeah.
like, are you looking for, so we have like, on one end of the spectrum, we have these like Tuesday, Thursday afternoon drop-in volunteers where you never know who you're gonna get, which might not be your best bet.
yeah,
And
no,
then we have like, like retired resource management park rangers who are always available at any hour. Always.
Yeah. I think I'm looking for something more committed initially.
I wonder though, we were talking a little bit about like there's these road segments that will want detailed data, but then maybe just some incidental coverage.
Oh, right,
in between, like driving roads, and if we were able to recruit some of these lesser qualified, but to just driving road segments and have the incidental captures to just
Yeah.
bulk up that could be.
There are certain park staff that drive roads at night.
Yeah,
You could try to recruit some of them. Yeah.
You feel like spending their time.
Right.
County.
I think they would love to spend their time.
But to maybe some of the other people that are out in the park a lot, I'm thinking of like Irene's, you know. Like Irene will bring in, you know, she'll try to collect an injured raccoon and take it somewhere because, anyway, but.
Yeah, but if they adopt a site though, like, I'd
Right.
like them to go every time it rains, so that is a commitment. So see how it goes.
You need to recruit somebody who wants to study the efficacy of citizen science and have them be the co-partner on this project.
Another
To really train and track the value of citizen science, because some of us are always very skeptical of it, right?
Yeah, well, and Catherine Schmidt is on the call, and so Scudic Institute could potentially help, well, they have some citizen science folks, but yeah, I think it'll, I don't know, how have these other, cause it's unusual in a citizen science project to be like, oh, like not be able to tell except like by the weather forecast.
Yeah,
Whether
yeah.
whether it's gonna be like that day to go volunteer, and so it's hard to plan, but like a couple of days out maybe.
Yeah,
But I mean, there are, and so have other programs, like how do they strategize? Like, they're big night programs, but are there other ones that try to do more than just one big night?
I don't think so.
No.
And the
Okay.
big night, the main big night, the protocol, they have an email list and they have, you know, 600 volunteers kind of like. We have a window that's like March through April or so, and you adopt the road and then you just have to go out like hopefully multiple times, but to your road segment and and they just keep saying like, tonight's a good night, tonight be a good night, and they choose which night they wanna go out, but they kind of like try to hit it a few nights. And it's worked okay.
Yeah, that's a shorter time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there are a
maybe
lot of
see what-
parents on the island that take their kids out, but I don't know how long they would, or how late they would go in the evening.
Yeah, especially in
7:30.
summer.
One and done.
Well, maybe that's more of a spring and fall thing, that the sun sets earlier. Yeah, so maybe COA students as well.
Does Ruth Collins organization at the high school do stuff like this?
Potentially, I mean, again, like, the night is hard, it's hard to get people, but, I mean, the main big night project's been really encouraging, that it's like, it's really worked. Even though it's putting volunteers at night in the rain on the road. Nobody would ever sign up for it, but it's-
Yeah, because migration's incredible. I wanna be part of it. But yeah, maybe after a few times, I'll be like, we didn't see thousands of salamanders, why are we here? But hopefully not. So also,
But I bet you do find some, there's gonna be
Yeah.
some people who will
Will
really
into it.
enjoy it.
yeah, hopefully, and then I wanna have like a bunch of parties, just to thank people, make people, keep people encouraged. Know that I care about them, and so we'll see how that goes.
The Frog Watch, oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just getting into the data quality, so Frog Watch, you know, Frog Watch, I'm guessing? No, so they do acoustic, so they like,
Oh, were
people,
those?
people listen for calls.
Yeah, is that still going on? I thought that was.
I think so.
Okay.
And they have people take their volunteers, I think, have to pass a test, like a quiz. To identify the calls. I could imagine that you might do something similar,
Yeah,
or at least to differentiate between your, like, entry level people, you know, and your people who have passed the test. At least you know whether the person, you know, the quality, some of the qualities.
yeah,
Or, you know, for people that, when they're not able to take a picture.
yeah, but, you know, I'm just thinking now, like. It's like if somebody mistakenly IDs something once, like that's not really gonna matter, right? What we'll be looking for is, I guess, a lot of one species. And but if one person is going to one site, there's a mistaking one, you know, but I guess there's ways for us to go there and confirm, so,
Yeah, pictures will be super helpful.
And maybe they do have a quiz that everyone has to take.
Yeah,
It's not unless, like.
I mean, it's online, so you just look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
it's
it's not,
Yeah.
yeah, just something,
Yeah.
in the field.
You can imagine somebody kind of just consistently misidentifying their thing.
Yes, that's what I was just.
You know, it's a wood frog, but they think it's a green frog or whatever it is.
Yeah, spring peeper, but I mean, at least we know that's like a hotspot. or,
Yeah,
you
right,
know,
it's a hotspot. It's
Um, it's still valuable.
I think it's still a frog.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be worth to try to hit Jack's lab and MBI Biolab? I mean, they have, those are scientists who do weird stuff, but, you know, I mean, they have, you know, deep interest in science and also this landscapes here and stuff.
They can identify axolotls for you.
They probably can.
But that's a good point. So NDIBL has, a student program to be summer too. And so they have
Yeah.
students on site. that-
I'm guessing they're working 40 hours a week.
I think
Well,
they, some folks there actually work on amphibians, cause they focus a lot on regenerative biology, so they focus
Right, so
they
that's
do,
when we think about.
like really different
connections.
perspectives, but they're interested in the same taxonomic groups, and so they might be interested, I mean, that would be an additional reason for them to be interested. And they host talks, so you could, I mean, we could help you, or you could reach out to them, both Jackson Lab and DIBL have outside scientists give talks at their places, if you're interested.
And there's also Acadia Senior College, which is what it is, but that's a really large group of avidly interested people in everything.
I haven't heard of Acadia Senior College.
A lot of them are retired experts in
In all kinds
of things.
Oh.
You'll wanna, I mean, they're incredible people.
So, I mean, there's a very big culture of learning and science and stuff here that could tap into that.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone met Allison Jackson, or no, you know, you're working with her on bird stuff. I talked to her.
Yeah.
A while ago, and she was very confident that I'd get a lot of enthusiastic people, so I was like, are you sure? She's like, oh, everyone's gonna love it. Okay, so it doesn't work out.
It's just a matter of matching people. They do take care of feeding, and it's a matter of like just managing that.
Yeah.
But I think there's gonna be scales.
Yeah, hopefully, see, yes, yeah, but, so we'll be doing, I will be doing a lot of that outreach, like, starting today, tomorrow, so.
Yeah.
If you think of anything, just email me.
That'll end up being a big part of your project then, is like care and feeding of volunteers.
Yeah,
It takes time, it's like fun, but
Yeah.
it takes time, and being able to communicate that, anyhow, but yeah.
Baking a lot of chocolate chip cookies will help.
I have someone who makes great chocolate cookies. How Charlie gets his people count people in parking lots.
well, we might have some funding for
Big chocolate chip cookie, oh, hey Charlie, to make chocolate chip cookies for your volunteers,
that.
that'd be awesome.
Or, Noah
But once
has,
you
wants to
do
make a
it-
salamander cake.
Once you do it, they'll be expecting it every time.
Oh.
No, but they'll come back at least.
These dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would hear all the time. You want to volunteer to count, yeah, you're gonna make cookies? That was the first thing out of their mouth. You gonna make cookies?
People need cookies at night in the rain.
Hot chocolate and
Hot
cookies.
chocolate.
Right, you could buy the cookies if you don't wanna make them.
Is there an oven
Not
in
as
the
good as
front?
Chinese.
I mean, the other place to maybe would be to connect you up with, Friends of Acadia, their communications staff, they could put something in. I don't know if any of these would work, but,
Catherine just mentioned that.
you know,
Facebook page.
yeah.
Yeah, and they're on my list, I'm gonna talk to them. They do have like a beer night, they have like a lecture in beer.
Right, you can go to one of those, be one of those speakers.
Yeah.
Partner with that place. So, what's that
Cat-
background?
Catherine, do you wanna unmute yourself?
Oh yeah, there's 3 chat.
Sure.
Do you wanna say what you're saying in the chat? Only
Oh, I was just adding that. So Scudic Institute, Friends of Acadia can obviously help spread the word and advertise the opportunity. And then I also, Jack Byerly, who's been doing some great sort of cartoon animations for the park, who's with Scudic Institute for the winter, if he could also do some cartoons to get some attention to the topic. I don't know that he's done anything with amphibians yet, but
Well,
Yeah.
make some stickers.
They're charismatic.
Yeah,
More than-
Especially in cartoon form.
yeah. We can start a Frogger contest here, just tell them the options are just endless.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I've been thinking too, like, if I talk to Interp or, you know, if you all talk to Interp, like, just what would happen if we just made a push for everyone to really get into iNaturalist, but just amphibians on roads, you know, like, that became a topic that we were aware of, and just could throw a bunch of incidental data at the problems, and just kind of see what we see.
Well, that's where, like Catherine was saying, like the park has a Facebook page or Twitter, or like we have other, maybe we don't have a Twitter anymore, I don't know.
Look at
But we can announce like initiatives and just encourage people to,
Yeah.
and share results too. We can be like, hey, here's what we found from the first one, but it doesn't stop there. We need more through, May, June or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, I think, for a lot of those communications, that helps if you draft things and then,
Yeah.
but we could, as you're able to bring together a plan, we could pull together the right people from those different organizations to figure out how to communicate this. So like Catherine or the Friends of Acadia, my guess is it'd be Shannon, but, and then, Diana and Jack or somebody, Jay from our team here at the park. And so just to talk about how do we communicate and what do we communicate, and Amanda Pollock, but we could talk about, what message and how to, what do you want to convey to people, and is it really important to dates or to encourage people to do iNaturalist or come to this training or, whatever. But yeah, so we have people that can help with that communication.
Scudic Institute did, some great meadow inventory with iNaturalist and like dates, I don't know how that, they might have experience.
Yeah, so those were scheduled and so there were registration, and so those went out, at least sometimes they went out in our interp schedule even as programs. But yeah, so if we know ahead of time, like over the winter, and they can plan, so those, our interp calendars get printed. And, but most people actually only go to the web one, and so the web one is doable, but yeah, so. All of these things just take, making sure that the right people are aware of it early enough. But as you think about it.
When they're not doing Stars Over Sand Beach at night because it's raining, deploy a different.
Rain days are, right, in the event of rain, Stars Over Sand Beach turns into.
Probably.
Look out for the amphibians right there, because there's a wetland right, I don't know how many, that wetland's pretty low relative to the road.
And do you have a minimum commitment? A lot of folks that wanna volunteer wanna know, maybe you don't, maybe it's just one night and that's good enough, but if it's,
Yeah, I think. So they might have to break them into like two groups, for. The season, I would like people to commit to a season for mid-March through the end of May or something.
yeah.
And then in the summer and the fall, but I also would like to make it accessible to anybody. But then it's just, again, thinking
We're
about
all thinking about
the training and,
right? You're-
but maybe there's something where like partner with, I don't know, someone who knows it, or maybe any data is good data and we just kind of,
I can
it's a
imagine
separate
that
data,
doing Training every
Yeah.
season. You know, I don't think you're gonna train everybody you want,
yeah,
you know.
but, even if someone just wants to go out and look for amphibians, like, you know, yeah. And
Yeah,
hopefully,
it's just
yeah,
that-
there's a way to upload, you know, so I would like to use survey 1, 2, 3, but then it's gonna be raining. So it's like, if it was just within the field form, you can just take a photo of it, and then submit it, but then I'm thinking a lot of people might not wanna do that. Might not wanna do everything on their phone anyway, and so we'll have field forms and they'll have to like resubmit it too. So if they took a photo, you know, just more of a hassle. I imagine things will get lost in the moving photos from one place to another, but. Yeah,
Is it
so,
all gonna happen in the park, on park roads, not on Route 233, for example, which is a state road?
Well, the road's state, but the land on the other side is part.
Right, that's on, I'm asking, because you're gonna wanna coordinate with the protection staff
mhm,
here, so they know
Yeah.
you're out there, but if you're in the town, the police department's gonna wanna know, you're gonna wanna have some pretty good safety protocols, I'm not sure what, you got people wandering around in the dark, in the rain at night.
yeah, yeah, something I think about,
Yeah,
and, you know, we're also. The amount of like transect that we're actually going to like predetermine, like 30 or whatever for them, like that's not that many, and then we'll have an idea of where people are. If they're just wandering the roads looking for frogs, I guess it's much harder to keep them safe, but,
mm,
yeah, we're thinking about this, and we also are kind of thinking. Cause it's such a patchwork, obviously, the park, are we allowed to survey the road, like, or can anyone walk the road, you know,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
it is nice to have the main big night is a really good model that's been successful over the last few years to
Yeah.
adopt a lot of those. programs.
Yeah, they do involve like safety measures and their protocols, like family friendly sites, will be specified. Then things with, you know, more road shoulder, then they'll tell people where to park, like where's a good place to park. Safety vests, headlamps, things like that. Sign a liability.
That would probably be a good thing to have Diana involved in, yes, too.
Yeah. It sounds like an awesome project.
It's just sounds really big.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and totally possible to scale it back, it's too big.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's awesome. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
I think we're out of time.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Thanks. Karen could probably has that
Yeah.
those data.